Car's coming out right now.
So it's Saturday afternoon, day before race day. We've brought the truck and the car and the trailer here. We're going to leave it here overnight. There's going to be security looking after everyone's cars. So tomorrow morning, first thing we'll do is come straight up and start racing. So this is the routine. They're obviously trying to find a way to get the trailer in and get the truck out as well. But yeah, once we work it out, maybe there's going to be someone around here to help us with the tow or something. So that's what we're doing now, and probably check in with you guys tomorrow morning when we get to racing.
Alright guys, I'm picking up for Nico. He's in the trailer at the moment. He's got a blister on his foot that's put him out of action walking around the pits and stuff, but we've got the car and the trailer out. So the car's here. We've basically unloaded it from the trailer, wrapped it up for the night, and me, myself, Chris over here, and Nico's laying down in the trailer. Looks like a Persian prince with his bed set up. We'll be sleeping in the mountain tonight because it was more logistically smarter, I guess you'd call it, to camp out in the trailer. So we've got some blow-up mattresses here in the transporter, and I'll go in and I'll show you the arrangement. But yeah, basically all the other superstars back at the house sleeping, and all the other crew are there. So I'll give you a bit of a tour of what we've got up in here. Alright, so there's my bed. Bit of a look around in here, and it's all set up, snacks. We've got oxygen bottles up here, guys, so we need these to breathe because the atmosphere is up here is pretty bad. So a bit of aviation oxygen right there when you need it. We'll pan across. There's Chris. Say hello, Chris.
Hey, hello.
This is
From the
one of
United
Merl's
States.
sponsors. One of Merl's sponsors. This is superstar number 2. He's a stand-in superstar for Mirl when he's out of action. We got our fuel sleeping right next to it. There's Nico. He's set up like a Persian prince. Look at this guy. So he's got his blow-up mattress. He's sleeping next to the front splitter. Look at that scuba tank. Look at that generator. We've got everything in here. We're living. So that's our setup for the night, and tomorrow's race day, D-Day.
Alright guys, next morning, so this is about 3 AM now. Sid came over and he woke us up about 2, and he didn't know that the rest of the crew were in the car sleeping, so he didn't actually have to wake us up. He feels pretty bad about it. It was a pretty rough night. Matt and Chris were both snoring all night.
No, I never got any sleep at all.
No, it wasn't too bad considering. The air mattress wasn't that comfortable, but it was a pretty good night. It wasn't too cold or anything, but yeah, so we're just going to be hanging around now for a little while, wait for the crew to come. Like Sid was saying, we don't have to really do anything till sunrise. So the car's still covered up. We haven't really set anything up or anything, so as soon as the sun comes up, we'll probably start warming the tyres and fuel the car up, and I'll check back in with you guys.
Should we unwrap the car?
I don't think we really need to do anything until the sun comes up.
I was only thinking selfishly, I wanted some of those blankets that are on the car.
Oh.
Just wrap myself up in one and just lay down here somewhere. Hey! What? Don't hold them all. What are you talking about? You didn't want to go to bed, did you?
Righto Nick, so what have you done to the tune for the race day?
So we looked at all the data from the car, from all the tests, and what we do for race day is we sort of relax some of the limiters and the trips. So now we know where the car wants to live, and it's kind of like a send mode for the car, I guess you could say, you know. So like instead of trying to keep the car really safe and conservative, we're now running the car pretty spicy. I guess that'd probably be the best way to explain it. So, but yeah, we're going to run it pretty hard. Yeah, that's what Mirl wants. So
I've got 4 passes. We have to decide who's the 4 guys that are going to go down to the grid, because what we can do is when we leave here, we'll have 4 guys with the tire blankets. And when we get stopped down there, you can like set them over, and as we move forward, you know, keep doing that set over.
I'll be one. I'll do it.
And then Sid and Nick.
I'm going to add that to your lanyard.
How do we? you feeling about the car and everything?
Well, it's I think it's in best condition it's been the entire month we've been here. You know, it's like we told everybody before that we've had almost no testing with the car before we got here.
Yep.
So we've essentially been testing the car, which is a prototype one-off, on the mountain, which is pretty limited testing each day. You know, 4 to 12 miles a day of testing. But really, going into the race, I've never felt better about the car. I mean, we've got that low end torque thing figured out. You know, it can launch off the line, and so pretty excited to see how it's going to run.
Nice. All right. Well, best of luck for it, mate.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Cover back up. That was he's really running PP9 back in 2013. Limited category. Yeah, it was just an Evo that we had all the parts on. I mean, you know, you got to be cool like Robin and make up a name for your car if you're going to that dust off. Oh, there it comes. To see all those bumps that I was talking about coming into the Olympic, it is just roller park all the way to the summit. It's just, I can't imagine a lot of things. I mean, we can I'll miss my run. I did the VCR with Rick Rapp and like, but I think what I did in the show the whole time, his eyes were exploding out of his head. He's like, this is it.
Alright, move.
National flying up here, and what I can only
I've got a nice ass shot there.
insane looking. This
guys qualifying year after year.
Once they started
Him and his dad are just one of those families that's just monumental. You get back 3-4 Superman.
And Interesting 1000 really is a very beautiful car. As far as the things that you've driven, the places that's awesome. It was joint course record for open wheel. Cody Faster. I'm out. Wrestle on the top.
Cars coming out right now.
Oh, fuck you.
Still several classes ago, David Donahue firing up the that record is 936,
Come on.
559. So Dave Donahue.
Fuck.
Crank it with the ignition off.
All my buddies that are here driving and all the
Now firing.
Now it's going to be maybe 4 or 5 minutes. Do you want to leave it running or do you want to shut it off?
Wants to leave it running. Can I stay with this thing and then go? He's gonna let me stay with the blower. You're my hero, man.
Not the greatest news, guys. We're at the start line. Mirl just took off, and then a few seconds later the fire truck took off and everything stopped. So we're all very worried. It looks like he may have crashed, but still hoping for the best. We've got no information down here. We're at the screen.
Variety of time attack championships as well.
We think he may have crashed, but we just don't know what's happened. There's no way to find out. It's just a matter of time. So I'm going to keep the camera rolling.
He went off. 4 or 5 corners in, he went off.
I can tell you with the crowd.
Spoken to the officials at the front.
He went off.
Of waitlisted drivers trying to get on the entry list.
Fuck.
Yeah, right. And we'll see where Dan lines up on the timing and scoring. And
Fuck! Where do we find the information first?
You're not going to hear shit, man. Last year when that car flipped over, we didn't hear anything until it came down.
Right.
They told us the same thing, like did he flatten the tire or something? And then the car was destroyed. So like, especially if it was like a crash,
Yeah.
they don't tell you anything. Because I think there's all kinds of reasons for that. There's like,
They take the footage.
well, they do that, and then they also don't want anybody else to know, right? Like, imagine like if the other drivers, the competitors do, like if some really crazy catastrophe happened,
Yeah.
they don't want to know that, you know?
Yeah.
They just want to know that something happened, and then when they green flag the track again, the track is green, you know?
Alright, so Nick's been here a few times before. Sorry, man. He's been in the same situation with other cars. This is obviously what he does as a tuner. They tell you that it was a mechanical, but that doesn't always mean it's a mechanical. They don't really want you to know that something happened. So we won't actually know until Mirl gets down what really happened.
Yeah, Mirl will be the one to really tell us what happened.
He'll be the one to tell us. Yeah.
That's my experience, is that it's
And
just
so-
they don't want everybody to know everything anyways, like all the time. You know?
So we're gonna have to wait till like 5 o'clock or something.
Yeah, it depends where they like picked him up. I mean, there's no way he can come down.
Yeah.
There's no way he's not going to walk through the woods or something. You know?
Okay.
You all right?
I'm good. Lost the motor.
Did you? Okay. Lost the motor. We need to make sure nothing's leaking.
Yeah, you're leaking oil, my man.
Okay.
You're good to go ahead and come on out, brother. We're going to tow you back. You might want to, you want me to get you in here or try to find you a block or something?
It's in neutral, but yeah, it's probably easier that way.
Yeah, I got it. He's in neutral. Jud's going to take you back down. We'll wait for the tow truck.
Thanks, man.
You'll go with him.
Mirl just walked back into the trailer. He looks like understandably upset. He's put so much into this, and for it to all just go down the drain just like that, out of nowhere, just sucks. So I'm going to give him his space. He obviously looks super upset. I don't want to stick a camera in his face, but it's a massive relief for the team knowing that he's okay. Don't know what happened to the car, don't know what any other information. As soon as we find out, we'll let you know what happened.
But you know he's excited because that thing has to be an absolute all-wheel drive. And it has to be an absolute. There's no replacements for it. So how does that weigh on you as well? Bradford 62-2. We're joined now by Matt Mullins.
Around, so I didn't want to give it back. They told me I had to. They took it back. So I'll try to talk to him and get his mouth. But yeah, what a special way to be here.
Where does this stack up?
This means I never could keep a long time full-time ride. Swan Schwartz who's raced up here, so he driven. So anyway, that was really cool to do.
325i is like, hey, can I drive? I need to drive. I love driving. I used to.
Again, by having the best people, right? These guys.
We'll set these inside.
They had a process, the way they do everything. Initial testing at Willow Springs.
That's a rod.
Stock, and then we go make guys into the car.
The rod's sitting under there.
And now it's just going to do a clean.
It's something where you look at it and you think, oh, maybe it's just kind of there to look good. But if for a funny dude, going to a guy for questions, I mean, that's what volume's about.
For Tanner Faust and the Radford team.
Look at that, 937.3.
That is unbelievable. Another car that will join the sub 10 minute.
Longer, see, it's just going to be a nonchalant.
Yeah. I can see the bearing. It's hot. Bolts are there.
Pieces.
What's the old temp? 200 up. And then look at the oil pressure. See the oil pressure drop out?
Go back. And the oil pressure was at 60, and the drop from there.
He's also going down with the revs. He's at 8,500. He's dropping with the revs. Yeah.
Starts to rise here.
Yeah, because he's going up with the revs. Because he tried to get back in it. How could they fucking...
So there's good news and bad news. Obviously, the good news is Mirl's fine, and he didn't hurt himself or anything, so he walked back into the trailer not too long after I just got off the camera with you guys. The motor threw a rod. Not exactly sure why. Whether it was excessive RPM or boost, or maybe it was just something that was going to happen. When we went to La Hunter, we stopped testing because Mirl thought he heard like a valve train issue, and then when we took the car back to the shop, the valve train was fine. So obviously what he heard was something going on in the bottom end. Probably won't know until we pull the thing right apart, but obviously I think this is the sort of thing that Matt or Mirl could probably explain a lot better. Obviously Mirl being in the car and Matt being the engine guy, but going to give them the space right now. They're obviously pretty upset, understandably, because they put a lot into this. I'll give you guys a look at this rod. That's just what we pulled out of the car. And looking at that, it's pretty catastrophic, so don't know what we're going to be able to salvage from this motor, and yeah, so not sure what else to say. So I might finish this off with a bit of a voiceover or something, finish the series off, but yeah, big bummer, total bummer. Yeah, so Mirl walked back into the trailer. I was obviously relieved. Everyone was relieved that he was back, and you know, like I said, I wasn't really in a position to explain what happened to the motor, just because, like I said, I'm not the engine guy. I wasn't driving the car, so now that I'm here with Matt, you can explain what you think happened. Now that you've seen the footage, you saw the rod that came out. Like you were saying earlier, the rod didn't actually show any signs of heat, even though the bearing wasn't there.
Yeah, we'll see this on the footage, but so everyone else can see. But the rod had completely ejected out in half. So what had happened, and once you see this rod, when I fish it out from under this tray, you'll see that the crankshaft journal had actually hit the rod in the middle of the rod. So what had happened is the cap had come off, the crankshaft had swung around, hit the rod between the block, and just tore the rod in half and ejected that piece out. So you can actually see a big divot in that left side of the rod there.
Yep.
That was a crankshaft journal hitting it. Now, the fact that the rod isn't black and blue means the bearing didn't turn and it didn't spin the bearing. So it wasn't ignition timing that hurt the bearing. It wasn't a bearing issue. What it was is, I believe the rod bolts weren't strong enough and it literally just separated them. It just pulled the rod bolts out, like off themselves.
And I do remember you talking about the rod bolts off camera. You were saying, well, these bolts are thin.
Yeah.
When we were building it back in here in Australia.
Shit.
Yeah. And then, but we just did not have the time to get new rods and pistons.
And the thing it was spec'd. It was spec'd. Like apparently these rods were spec'd for this power, for the RPM, for all that stuff. So mind you, I wanted to cap the RPM at 8,600. I think I said to Mirl.
Yeah.
And he basically said, on race day, we need every bit of what we can do. Would you spin it to 10.5? And I said, no, but it's your engine. Do what you will. And Mel just turned to Nick and said, send it. So
the thing is, like, obviously, it's a catastrophic failure.
Yeah.
But I think it's a culmination of so many things going wrong over this whole time. Like one of the things that Mirl did mention was the way the car revs. It's not like an aspirated 4A, where an aspirated 4A you could feel it fall over.
Yeah.
He said with this turbo setup, it just kept pulling.
Pulling all the way to the top.
With his dash not working and him not having a rev light.
Yeah, or an indication of power falling off.
Of where he was. He said that he over-revved it a few times just because his fucking dash wasn't working.
Yeah.
So that probably didn't help.
Well, that's the thing. When it revs all the way to the limit and it's literally pulling to the limiter, he's not going to lift or change gears until it's like, pop, and he's like, oh, that's a limiter there, change. And like you say, 10,500 on a heavyweight rod and piston, like we were undersized on our rod bolts. I believe that. And after speaking with Paul Hasselgren, from Hasselgren Engineering, Paul says he hates the bigger rod bolts. And Mel said he swears by the small rod bolts. Now, Paul's experience would be mainly with aspirated engines, right? He's looking for less weight. You know, he's probably got a lightweight rod and piston in there for the aspirated cars. But for turbo, it needs to be the bigger, heavier stuff. We're probably swinging too much RPM. I think the balance would be bigger rod bolts, heavier rod, heavier piston, less RPM. So rather than 10,500, come back to 9.5. The issue is we need legs. So we've got to make an engine that cops all of that, the high RPM and all that sort of stuff. So we've got plans to spec up the rods a bit stronger so they can cope with this. But we also think that there's a harmonic issue that could have helped maybe loosen the bolts off. But even if the bolts loosened off, the bearing would have turned in the housing and heat would have gone crazy. We would have seen black and blue. That's what happens when you turn a rod bearing. That just literally separated the bolts. It just tore them in half. So
the thing is too, I can't remember who said it, but like if you go from like an aspirated rod that's light to a turbo rod that's heavier, and you're spinning it to the same amount, like if you're spinning it to 10,000 like you did the aspirated rod, even though that turbo rod is only 10% heavier, it's like the force that, you know, that extra 1,000 RPM or 2,000 RPM is effectively like 10 times as bad.
Yeah, Nick was saying it.
Yeah, it was Nick. Nick. It was like, you know, it's not just like, oh, it's, you know, it's an extra 10% on the rods, but it's a really
10x.
it's a big difference.
Times, it's 10 times the mass difference. So like, if it's 1 ton of weight before that rod's got to reciprocate on the rod bolt, it's now 10 times that. So it's not 10% more. It's not 1.1 tons, or, you know, it's 10 ton. So like if you're talking numbers, so it was the rods were under spec'd. So it would have been interesting to see. Like I would have liked to have done the teardown. Mel's done the teardown with Paul, and they've slapped an engine together. Did he mention it to you?
No, he didn't. No.
So Mel mentioned it to me. So they've slapped a new engine together, and they've just slapped it.
Okay.
Like just put something together just to get the car running again.
Okay.
And we're going to be going pretty hard on a new cast head, one of Paul's new cast small ports. Or big port, sorry. I think Mel mentioned small port, but I think he meant big port.
All right.
Very new casting, cylinder head. I think we're going to go with the billet alloy block.
Yep.
And we're going to do like titanium rod, and we're going to, you know, spec up the rods and rod bolts, and really put in the stuff that I know that turbo stuff, how it works.
So it's like, going to hold together.
It will hold together. And I'm going to fix the harmonics with a harmonic damper.
You're going to be able to get something scratch built so that you can be confident in the
and then realistically, all these things, that's like, what if it's harmonics? What if it was rod bolt? What if we remove all that with a harmonic damper, bigger rod bolts, a lightweight rod, try and bring that reciprocating mass down? Mm-hmm. If we do all that and we still break an engine, well then we've got to start looking elsewhere.
Yep.
But I'm under the impression that we can fix this. We've got to reduce, like, there's no point just doing one, like, stronger rod bolts, because if they do break again, and we break another engine and eject the rods out of it just by going a bigger rod bolt, but it was a harmonic issue, well then we've sort of gone backwards because we've lost a whole engine. I think if we attack all the problems that I think it could potentially be, we remove the opportunity for an issue to happen.
Yeah.
So I think the best thing to do is attack what I know and just say, okay, this is what I know could potentially be an issue. Let's resolve those issues and make it so we're not going to have that issue. It'll just... And if it does have an issue, well, then we're back to the drawing board. But this is development. This is a prototype car.
I was about to say that. The thing is that we were testing on the mountain, and that's something that Mirl did want to mention. Like, whenever he was driving on the mountain, he was testing the car. He was dealing with problems. One of the biggest problems was the nitrous. The nitrous to spool the turbo wasn't the greatest. So he was dealing with, like, you know,
massive
delay, real bad lag. You know? So like he was dealing with that. So most of the time when he was coming out of a corner, he was saying to everyone that he's flat and he's just waiting for the power to come on. And it eventually would finally take off, but then he'd have to brake for the next corner. And the fact that we were testing the car, that was the reason why he wanted to push so hard to get into the race and to get it to win. Like, it wasn't like, we'd had all this testing and we knew that we could.
We knew that the car worked.
We had limited time and he just wanted to throw everything he had at it. So you can understand, why he had done it and all that. So
100%. What was the issue? Was there someone ahead of us that broke down or something?
So something that happened, I've cut this out of the main part of the video. So I've just added this little bit of footage in. This is my secondary camera.
Oh, this is the helicopter.
So what happened was, this is in the pits, and that's the marshal standing in front of the car right there. And he said to us that the helicopter's going to go refuel, and it's going to be about 10 minutes. So that was a big deal to us because we have to take these panels off now, turn off the nitrous and turn off the oxygen because...
And we have to remove the tyre warmers because we were ready to go.
Because we were ready to go.
So tyre warmers came off. So when they made that call, it was everything, tyre warmers back on, remove the panels, shut all the valves off. And that's a big task when we're ready to go.
It took us a fair while. I might speed it up here or cut a little bit out, but I don't remember how long it took us, but it took us a fair while. And you'll see in the background, the helicopter actually flies past, and that official sees the helicopter, and he starts to try and tell everyone, hey, like, the helicopter's back, and no one heard him. And then it was, all of a sudden, he said, they want you there now. And then you can see, I've got a video on the GoPro, you can see Chris just puts his hands up like, what? And then there was a scramble to get everything back turned on and get the car back together.
There it is there. There's the heli.
There's the helicopter in the background.
Oh my God. It was hard. It's such a hard thing to do.
He's about to look up here and see it. So there he goes. Oh, the helicopter's up there, but no one's noticed. Everyone's frantically scrambling to get the car. It looks like Sid might have just heard him.
So Chris is putting the heaters and all that back on.
So he was unaware.
So completely unaware.
Yeah.
It's so hard because there is so much noise. There's so much going on in the pits, and there's the lack. It's not lack of communication, but how difficult.
What? Get the car down there. Get the car. We want you now. We want you there now.
There, mate. Throw the mat back. Get that off, Chris. Let's get these tyre warmers off. Get it off the stands. Put the pedals back on. Put the panels back on.
I'm playing with the cameras. I'm not sure which ones I've turned off. I'm going to turn them back on. I think I was in your way a little bit.
Yeah, I was just like, fuck it, I'll just reach down there and fucking get that bottle. Because I was not going to take that side pod off. It was too much work. Yeah, look at us go. Like a professional race team.
Even though we're not. It was pretty impressive how quick you guys got it back and running.
We definitely had enough time, I think, enough pulling it apart, putting it back together. It's a heavy maintenance vehicle, this one.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, it was definitely an experience, this whole event.
So, I can't remember. I think that's when that happened. Were we struggling to start the car, or were we struggling to start the car before that?
We're struggling to start the car the whole time.
Yeah, so like that actually happens, and then they were like, "We need you there now." We got everything back together, and it wouldn't start. That's how he was like trying to start it, and then Nick said to him, "Crank it with the ignition off."
Yeah.
And then he cranked it until it fired. Then he said, okay, now fire it. So it was just tense. The whole time it was just tense. And then when we got to the start line, like, it was supposed to be only a 2-minute wait, a 2-minute delay for us on the start line.
Yeah.
Some guy told us to get rid of the tyre warmers.
Yeah.
Which I don't really, we're not going to argue with him, but I don't understand why we couldn't have tyre warmers on the car. You'd think keeping the tyres warm would be a safety thing, but they obviously don't want you on the grid.
Yeah.
So got rid of the boys, and then we sat on the start line for like 8 minutes.
Yeah.
So I think
we were melting the engine down. The engine was overheating. It was starting to we had already hurt the engine at this point. We're not going to pretend like the engine was perfect and what they done held us up. That hurt the engine. The engine was hurt. We heard it at La Junta. We knew we did because we were starting to lose oil pressure, and it could have been an over-rev downshift. It could have been an over-rev just on a shift change. It could have been the anti-lag strategy being too. There were so many things that could have eventually just hurt the engine.
But it's just part of the story. I contemplated cutting that out, but I thought, no, you know what? It's part of the story. We'll tell it as it was, and it was just it adds to that moment. Like, it was just so tense, and we were all freaking out a little bit. But yeah, it didn't work out in the end. But
no,
it was a good.
But
trip.
the thing is, we can't stress enough that the car wasn't tested.
Yeah.
We literally finished the car. It got dynoed. They took it to a local track after they come off the dyno for 40 minutes. Nick said I had 40 minutes on that dyno. But once from the time we got it running, because it took them a couple of hours to get started, because they couldn't get a timing light on it. There was all sorts of issues where they couldn't even get an indication of where the ignition timing was to get the ECU matched to the engine. Then when they did get it running, it was all these trigger sequences they had to figure out. Once that was all dialed, Nick had 40 minutes on the dyno to get that thing running. Then they went from 40 minutes of dyno from an engine that had never been run before straight to a racetrack and tested, and then it was blowing oil out the breather, and the breather wasn't set up right. The dry sump pump was the vacuum wasn't set right for how much breathing the car had.
And that's just how it is with prototypes. It's always going to be a struggle.
That's right. And all the things we fixed just to get it to race. Then when we raced it, it was like, okay, the car works now. Let's make it make more power. Let's make it make more power faster. So let's the nitrous, anti-lag, and then throughout all these processes is when we started to have issues. Like, we broke the cam, we broke the engine, so we had to go fix that. So we fixed that. Still have no idea why that happened.
Yeah.
Like, we're putting it down to maybe too harsher anti-lag strategy.
Just heat, maybe.
Yeah, rally anti-lag. So off-throttle anti-lag with keeping boost up with off-throttle anti-lag. Then a combination of that and nitrous, and then having all these different strategies, we hurt the engine, so we fixed that. So then but this is what happens when you test a prototype car that hasn't been done. You're going to break parts, unfortunately. It's very rare that you're going to find a car where it's just perfect from day one. There is always going to be teething issues. Put it this way: if the Formula Atlantic chassis was a perfect chassis, they would have stopped at 001. Yeah. But they're not. They're at 006, 016. They're at 0112, 0113. They were finding that the chassis were twisting, cracking the blocks, so they had 7 rib blocks and braces and this and that. They were always changing to make it better. And we're doing something where it was revision 1 of the first car. It's untested. So when we break an engine and we go, it could have been the chassis twisting, man. What if we were twisting the chassis because we were putting so much G-force into corners now because it's so much quicker of a car? Or the chassis twisting.
He has made a lot of changes to aero. He has added stuff for aero, and
the engine's a part of the. The engine is a part of the chachassis.
The third spring as well. That's gonna,
all sorts.
So much. That's
we don't know what happened. So, deconstructive testing is where we're going to find out how we fix this. And like you say, that's why I want to make dramatic changes to the setup so we can try and isolate how many breakages we have, because it's just going to cost too much money otherwise. We've got to figure out what happened and make it work from there.
But we're not giving up.
No.
Bigger and better next year.
No, 100%. Yeah. No, we're going to come back and we're going to have a way better setup.
Cool.
And more testing time.
Nice. Well done, man. Well done.
So in the lead up to this trip, I would daydream about us getting the win, and I'd have a ton of footage of us all celebrating, and this series would have a happy ending. But we live in the real world, and that just wasn't meant to be. And even though the lead up to the race was a struggle, it was an awesome experience, and I can't thank Mirl enough for giving us the opportunity to be part of this team, and giving me the opportunity to make these videos to share with you guys. I also wanted to add that everyone on this team were absolute legends, and I'm really looking forward to seeing everyone next time, where hopefully we can take home the win.
I guess I could have been more than helpful for every time you tried.